Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Wizard Weekly, where we bring you news and humor from around the spiral. And there's actually news this week! King's Isle killed the update drought with a downpour of draconic items attainable from the new Dragon's Hoard card pack, which is cram-packed with, well, everything dragon. Those wizards who dare brave the horrible randomness of the Dragon's Hoard may find themselves sitting atop a shiny new Bone Dragon mount, or flying high with the new dragon wings, wearing one of 3 different sets of draconic garments, or just going Ginsu with the new quote-unquote wand that hides deep within the draconic stash. Or you could just end up with snapdragons, like me, again. If you'd like to test your luck with the Dragon's Hoard deck, it's only 399 crowns, available only in the Crown Shop. Pets were left with rumbly tummies last Wednesday when King's Isle took the Mega Snack Pack off the market temporarily to fix a glitch that awarded players who had purchased the pack with too few snacks. The snacks were returned early Thursday morning, but not before wizards everywhere had gone into a frenzy, even starting a petition to have it returned before Professor Greyrose posted. The Mega Snack Pack is returned to the Crown's shop, and just in time for a Pet-a-Palooza where many pets are on sale for up to 50% off, and some retired pets have returned for a limited time. This sale will end on Tuesday the 14th, so make sure to grab your pet if you haven't already, and keep an eye out for the Uncle Sam leprechaun that King's Isle let slip in their Pet-a-Palooza video. This week in the Power Pip has, yeah, I got nothing. Moving right along to Better Homes and Gardens, we enter the balance home of Judgmentmaster. He's built his house into an archaeological dig he's been working on, but that hasn't kept him from adding a few new features to those he's unearthed. As you walk into his house, you enter a hedged-off park where King Parsley performs for visitors, and where his mounts can roam free. Overlooking the park from a shady retreat is the grave of the forgotten balance wizard, the former owner of Judgmentmaster's home. In the center of the yard, you can take a lesson from his silver trumpet vines, or you can just watch the imps practice for their next masterpiece. Off to the side, Boris Blackrock is frozen in time, mere centimeters from a treasure he fought long and hard for. Judgmentmaster is always excavating further into the area around his home to discover more about it and its previous owner. If you want to get out of the sun, you should head to his indoor lounge where his pets romp and play and entertain his guests. You can ask for a little ditty from his piano-playing fairy, while you cook s'mores on his s'more fountain, and good luck finding his hidden bank. Next is a cool kitchen with a draconic cook, where I may have accidentally knocked over the jelly beans, but shh, don't tell. On to the crafting room, that also serves as his bedroom, which he shares with his assistant Toby, who works diligently to restore artifacts while his master is away. Keep going and you reach the throne room where he can watch his fire cats play chess or just confer with his 2 gnome advisors. Just over the bridge is his grand entry hall, which houses some of his larger treasures and ushers you into his trophy room, where his smaller rewards are on display, tended to by his 2 unicorn assistants. Finally, there's a classroom where he performs cool experiments to educate his younger friends, and studies the mysterious happenings that shredded his death banner. Judgmentmaster's work on his house has made it something truly wonderful, but his yard is what really impressed me. His use of hedges to take one space and turn it into many really set his yard apart as something special. So, for today's housing glitch, my friend Cody showed me how to stack hedges to create walls of them, and while this glitch is somewhat complicated and not for the faint of heart, the end result is well worth all the hair pulling. What you're going to need for this glitch are 2 labeled crates, you can find those at the Wizard City Bazaar, blue trimmed rugs, and hedgerows from the Wizard City furniture shop, and a chessboard from Crocotopia. First we'll put our boxes side by side, And next we'll take one of our blue trim rugs and put it not on the boxes, but on top of the chessboard, like so. Come on, there you go. Pick the chessboard up using the rug and put it over the top of the 2 boxes. This may take a little feeling around. Next, take the box closest to you and move it. The entire chessboard should come with it. Make sure to place it about where you want your hedges to be, because we'll be putting them right on that end. You can pick this box up. We're done with it. Next, put your blue trim mats end to end so they're just barely touching, and we'll move them over to our hedge and use that one to slide it slightly underneath, kind of like a hedge spatula. Take the mat closest to the hedge and use it to move the hedge onto the chessboard. Just like that. This is going to be where your hedges are when you get to the final result. We'll take the second hedge and just slide it underneath. Oops, I'm slightly off. Sorry, 1 second. Come on. Come on. Who's a good hedge? There you go. Now pick up the box. Oops. Let's see if I can get this. Pick up the box underneath. And take one of your blue trim rugs. There they are. Take one of your blue trim rugs and slide it slightly underneath the blue trim rug still under the hedge. You can use this to move this to the side and then pick it up. Ta-da! You've made yourself a hedge wall. This is great for creating mazes or just walling off a part of your yard that you want to make into something else. Thanks, Cody! And that brings us to Letters from the Spiral with a doozy of a question from Elizabeth Bluegem, who asks, by creating triage and other spells that seem to target specific schools or abilities, has KingsIsle taken away what makes each school special? That is a very good question, and I really had to think about it and research before I could answer. If you look at any of the new school spells, it certainly seems that way from the standpoint of your average wizard, but if you do a little more digging, it appears that all the new spells solve a problem that we were facing, or one that we could face in the future. I'm glad you mentioned triage because it's a great example. We as wizards have become individually very powerful, and to counter that power, we've been given school-specific shields. When facing a damage over time spell, those shields become pretty useless. You'd either have to have 4 surrounding you already, or 4 in your hand to be able to effectively counter this dot spell. Otherwise, you know, you're cooked, or frozen, or poisoned. Along comes triage, which is a much more efficient counter to a dot spell, but not an absolute counter or a hard counter. First, you either have to have a life student or a triage treasure card, which I'm not sure exists to be honest, and your life student has to have it in their hand. Even then, you're going to take the initial damage and 1 or 2 ticks from the dot depending on whether you go first or second, so while it solves the problem of facing overly powerful damage over time spells, at the same time it doesn't counter it completely, which makes it fair enough. I'm sure the dot caster wouldn't agree, but they're not completely blocked. If you take a look at any other spell, a good close look, you see they fix a certain problem that a certain school was fixing. And it wasn't a major problem, it was just something that needed to be addressed. And yeah. Our second question comes from That Pyromancer, who wants to know, do you think KingsIsle will come out with an achievement or trophy system? They already have, though it's not very obvious. Player housing is something that makes Wizard 101 very unique because not a lot of MMOs have it, and we're able to take that awesome rare item you found on a boss and you can put it in your home for people to see. If that's not quite what you're looking for, there's the title system in your character stats screen. It keeps track of how many of this and that you've killed and gives you a nifty title depending on how much you've dedicated yourself to it, and what's great about some of these titles is that you get some pretty nifty ones by default. Savior of the Spiral, Oni Slayer, Mander Savior. They all sound pretty awesome, and all you have to do is follow the main story arc to get them. There are some harder to get ones out there, like Secret Shopper, which involves going through a particular door a certain amount of times, so good luck getting that one. Sabrina Dragon Rider's been hanging around the Commons just as long as I have because her question is, do you think King's Isle should raise the penalty for cursing? I do think the current system is a bit too lenient, however it's kinda hard to put a cork in someone's mouth when they can just go out, make a free wizard, and come back to do it again. King's Isle would either have to ban or silence all accounts coming from that person's IP address, and they'd be out of their minds to do that. With multiple wizards in one family, or multiple wizards at one address, they'd all be silenced because this one unintelligent individual decided to mouth off somewhere. Another solution would be to limit the creation of free accounts to an ISP-provided email, kind of like they're doing on Central. It would certainly have some wizards thinking twice before they open their mouths, but again, there's only a certain amount of those per household, and it's not really available to people in dorms and apartments, so it's not a very good idea. I, for one, can't think of anything that would solve this little problem and not be totally insane, and I think King's Isle may be in the same boat. So, while I wish they had a harder crackdown on cursing, I really just don't know how they would go about it. Our last question comes in from Tango Torpedo, who is ready to rumble as he asks us, do you think that King's Isle will ever add a boss rush dungeon for the final bosses of all the worlds? I doubt it. The only reason other MMOs have implemented this kind of system is because their dungeons took too long, taking anywhere from 20 minutes to 12 hours, and their players were running out of time, getting fed up with the game, and those MMOs needed to do something about it. In Wizard 101, you're told just how long a dungeon should be taking you before you've even entered, and whether you finish before or after that time depends on the skill level of the group you're in, but most dungeons in Wizards don't go over an hour or so, unless it's old school Brisk Breeze Tower, which was just torture. The dungeons are also the way they are to give you and your buddies some recoup time between bosses without making it feel like you've lost time. You can use the trash mobs to heal yourself or your group, to shuffle some cards around in your deck for the next fight, to change pets, because it's not like your entire group is going to die a terrible death if you don't get in there for that first turn. And it also gives you some nice vendor loot, things you can sell for cash, whereas you couldn't do that with most boss gear. So while being able to do Chancel, Waterworks, and Wintertusk Dungeon all in one would certainly get you your gear faster, it's kind of impractical and really too whimsical to implement. That's all for this week, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to watch next week for more news and humor from around the spiral. Happy weekend, everybody!